What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness for Life podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Lohr, and today I have with me Blake Parado from Parado Power. Blake and I met at the Real Coaches Summit this past April, and super great guy. He's been supporting the podcast, and so decided to invite him on. And so, Blake, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Blake's coming to us from Honolulu, Hawaii. He's waking up at an ungodly hour to do this podcast. So I appreciate you, man. One of the things I like to get into right at the start is kind of hearing people's story of how did you get into the work that you're doing? You're a gym owner, you're a coach. How did you get into that initially, and what does that evolution look like for you?
Yep. So, like most trainers, I played sports, but I wasn't very good at sports. I would barely call myself an athlete because I just played one sport mainly. I played baseball. Yeah, a lot of people played like high school, college sports or beyond. My goal was growing up was just to like make my high school team. I played growing up and stuff, but yeah, for me it was an accomplishment just to make my high school team. But I was a really small kid, skinny kid. Somehow went from being like 5'7", 115-pound freshman to same height, 5'7", but actually becoming not only making the varsity team, but starting on the varsity team and actually starting at first base as a 5'7", 160-pound right-handed dude. So if you told me when I was younger I was gonna be the starting first baseman on my high school team, I thought you're outside of your mind. But getting into the weight room really helped me through athletics and stuff. Not only like improving, like getting myself to at least be good enough to start, but just improving overall confidence. Continue lifting through college and stuff, but when I started college, I was actually a computer science major, so totally the opposite end of the field. After majoring that for a few years and realizing I didn't want to sit behind a desk all day, I thought and making friends with trainers at like 24-hour fitness and stuff is like that looks kind of fun, but I didn't know there was a major for it. But my friends were like, "Oh no, you should major in this kinesiology major." And I was like, "Oh, I thought that's for like physical therapists only." And they're like, "No, trainers and stuff take it too." And I looked at the curriculum and it had like biomechanics, exercise science, anatomy, and physiology. I was like, "Oh, that sounds way more interesting than what I'm doing now." Went to my advisor and said I wanted to switch to kinesiology, and then he thought I was crazy because he's like, "That's totally opposite from what you're doing now, and you're only less than 2 years away from graduating." And I was like, "Well, if I already know I don't want to do this, and if I just jam pack my schedule with like 18, 19 credits the maximum every semester, it's only going to take one or two more semesters because the requirements for computer science, at least the general requirements, are way higher than like kinesiology, obviously." And he's like, "Oh, I guess so if you think you can handle it." Made the switch, jam packed my schedule, and didn't take that much longer to graduate. And yeah, I mean, just taking the classes was just a lot more enjoyable, even though I was pretty good at the computer science side. But yeah, like I wanted to be a personal trainer, but then actually I was interning somewhere, and they're like, "No, that's for like personal training is like a stepping stone. You want to like become like a strength coach after, but yeah, you should start with personal training first and get your feet wet." And I was like, "Okay." So I listened to him. Okay, I'll be a strength coach after because you said so. But I ended up getting a job at like a YMCA and then eventually a job at a private studio, working for someone. And as I kept doing personal training and working with everyday people and athletes here and there, I was like, I actually really enjoy working with everyday people more so than athletes. Just like yeah, like working with athletes is fun and stuff, but then like just feel a lot more like hey, hello you. My dog just came out. Good morning. Yeah, working with everyday people, helping people just get like people who have never been to the gym before and helping them find love, or at least not hate or not be scared of going to the gym, and just going from having to be on meds to getting off meds, and just things that just improve their life in general. Just find way more joy in that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that transition for sure. My background, I started in sports medicine, worked with athletes, started out doing sports performance, and then had sort of the same realization, like, there are a lot of pros and cons to serving any population, but just the general public is a lot of fun to work with, and more so than I as a very young kid would have anticipated
Hmm.
when I was initially getting into the industry. So I want to talk about dive in here and talk about your tagline that I saw on your website that I think is really important, and that's why we're having this conversation. Is and correct me if I get this wrong, but making serious fitness seriously fun. Is that right?
Yep. I don't
So
remember how I
what,
came up with that.
you don't remember? I was gonna ask you why'd you go with that tagline?
I don't remember how I came up with that specifically, but basically, when it came to time for us to open our own gym, I've already worked out of many gyms and like trained myself out of gyms and have worked and trained clients out of many different gyms. And it's like, in fact, like there was a lull between where I was renting out of a gym and then opening our gym where we didn't have a place to train because we were training. Me and my wife were training for a powerlifting meet at the time that was coming up in a couple months, but we didn't have a home gym. And I was like, oh, it'd be a good idea to show my wife like all these other different gyms because she's only ever trained at like my private studios that I worked at and like 24-hour fitness like way back in college back then. So I was like, she should experience like what other gyms are like. So she gets kind of an idea. So I just bought like a bunch of like 1 day passes or free trials at like Powerhouse Gym,
Nice.
24-hour fitness, UFC gym. Took her to my high school gym, out of my another friend's studio, trained out of the studio that we're in that was a gym before but became our gym now. So we tried like 6 or 7 different gyms in like a week span.
Nice.
And then each gym, like there are things that and I want to get her perspective coming from someone who didn't really have a fitness background but was training for powerlifting just because she wanted to try after watching me compete in powerlifting for a couple years. Um, to get her perspective. And it was like there are things she liked at some gyms and things she didn't like, but there wasn't really like one gym that had everything. So a gym either had like a real serious like had serious equipment and a serious vibe and the training was serious, but like things she didn't like would it'd be like dirty or like there'd be no parking or like it'd be intimidating with the other members. And then on the flip side, there were gyms that had like a good vibe for her anyway, like super clean and like everyone's super friendly and stuff like that. But the equipment itself wasn't up to par. Or like like she'd watch people do the training and it wasn't like in her mind like smart training of what we would do. And then places that have like non-intimidating feels, like some woman would take like curves class, and not to say like curves isn't like good training or anything, but it's not exactly like the training that we would do to get people like fat loss results, but they have a very good community and they bring people together and get people actually moving. So yeah, I was like, okay, why can't we after seeing all of this and experiencing all of this, why can't why can't we have a place that has that good vibe, has all the customer service stuff like being clean and greedy at the door and really great parking and nice bathrooms, but the training itself is actually serious training where you're doing squats and deadlifts and what we would consider like smart programming, like balance push and pull and stuff like that, all coming into one place. Then that's just kind of how the tagline came about, making serious fitness seriously fun, a
Nice.
place that has everything that you would look for in a gym and doesn't have the things that would push you away.
Yeah. Awesome. So it was more for you guys about the environment, you know, and setting that up, but still maintaining the approach of, serious training and straightforward training there as well. I think one of the things that struck my mind, so I want to ask you, is like I'm thinking about when I'm training for long periods of time, especially if I'm prepping for something specific like a meet or a competition, sometimes it can get very dull, and it is very basic, very straightforward. And if you are not every day in love with the training process, sometimes you feel like you need to mix it up. When you hit those moments, like what do you do for yourself or even for your clients when your clients hit those moments where it's like, all right, this person needs an injection of fun into their training? What does that look like for you?
For myself, I don't use myself as an example too much for clients because I'm like a nutcase and just love working out. Like even like my like eating and everything. Like I post my food here and there, like and like Mike Dola makes fun of my ground turkey and all that. But and it's like, or like, how do you eat that? And if you ask my wife, she'll be like, no, he actually likes eating that. And in my training, like I've been doing training like almost this pretty much the same way for 20 years. Like I can do squat, bench, and deadlift. My first workout ever at my high school gym was squatting with a broomstick for like 15 sets of 10 and benching. The next day was benching like 10 sets of 10 with just a bar. I don't even remember if I even used the bar the first day. And 23 years later, what are my workouts? Squatting and benching and deadlifting. But I'm like straightforward with clients. It's easier for me. It's easier for me because I really enjoy training. outside of spending time with like my family and stuff and watching sports is probably my favorite thing to do. That's not going to be the case for you guys. And understandably, like you guys, I tell my clients, you guys have real jobs, you guys have other things you'd rather do than train. But but you know that fitness is important. That's why you're in our gym. We want the training to enhance the rest of your life, just not it become your life unless you want to. But I figure 99% of you don't want fitness to become your life, but you know it's important and it's going to enhance all the other aspects of your life. We keep the end goal in mind. We try to, from our perspective, my team's perspective, we try to get ahead of it, and in terms of like it not being fun and stuff for them, we just never even let it get to that point where like the red flags don't pop up. Obviously they still do, but we just keep every day light. We treat we do the whole unreasonable hospitality approach, which comes pretty natural for us. Well, for me, and then passing on to my team because I worked in a restaurant for 10 years, a steakhouse. So we pretty much were pounded that into our head every day since I was 18. So I was like, okay, and then I just carried all that over to the gym. But yeah, we just make sure the goal is like for my team is to make the every session for the client like the best part of the day. But we want to try to make it the best part of your day. That's our goal. With hoping that it's not really the best part of your day. We're hoping like this fitness stuff is making the rest of your life so much better that no matter how hard we try, we're not the best part of the day, but we're gonna try
Mm.
anyway.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that approach. Is just trying to really just elevate somebody with exceptional service and with just an environment that makes them feel so good that they'll never not enjoy it.
Hmm.
Sounds like that's the approach. I love that. Yeah, I know for me, one of the things that I have done in that approach is like obviously you can change training up like that sort of thing, but for some people there are seasons of life, and I'll talk particularly about like I have a number of young dads that I work with who are sometimes the sole breadwinner for their family. They hold a lot of stress, and so it's like, all right, if are and I know it's a little different from being in person versus online, but like if I have an online client like that, it's like, all right, let's switch up your workout so that you don't have to spend an hour, in the gym with me to get what you need done. It's like, all right, you got a barbell at home or a couple kettlebells at home or even just a plate or two. Like, let's do a couple rounds of something different that you can get a really good training stimulus in 20 minutes and be done. Let's you're gonna be toast at the end of it because we're not going to rest nearly as much, but let's play around with something and change it so that you're going to flow through your workout a lot more quickly, and get into a place that it is more fun for you because it's not this looming thing that is, oh gosh, I barely have the time for this at all. I don't want to have to deal with it. Let's and then there's that hesitancy and doubt, and so we nip that in the bud, right? That's what we want to do, is just
Hmm.
restore some confidence in the training, and sometimes just about throwing some heavier weight around and hitting a PR, or you know maybe even using some med balls and speeding up some of the things that we do to allow them to feel like a kid again, at times. So um
Yeah. On the note of yeah, like on paper there are things that are optimal scientific wise that are like gonna be the best for results and stuff depending on your goal. Like you're talking about for time though, like yeah, technically if you want to optimally increase your strength or even hypertrophy, you should be resting like 3 to 5 minutes between each exercise and stuff, right?
yeah.
So that you can push each set to the max. So that I ask my trainers, like, if we have our clients do whatever, a max set of squats, or not max set of squats, but squats are close to failure, and we have them sit and rest for 3 to 5 minutes, what do you think they're going to do? And they're like, after 30 seconds, they're going to be like, I'm bored.
Yeah, they're checked out.
Yeah, they're checked out. They're bored. Even if they tapped into that needing that rest period, the workout's gonna take forever. They're not gonna
Yeah.
if it's training like for me, I have trained for like 3 hours because I can and I kind of need to. Or at least to justify that I need to my wife. No one else is gonna have that luxury. We tell them it's a 50-minute session. Do a set, rest 3 to 5 minutes, and do a set. They're only going to get like two exercises done in 50 minutes. Even if they were getting results from that, they're not going to be happy. Like power two, right? They're supposed to do like 3 to 5 reps of whatever, a hard jump or a hard throw. and then rest for a long time. Even that's just not practically going to work in that time period.
Right.
If they're even able to tap into that amount of force and CNS stimulation to even require that rest, which most general pop people can't anyway when they first start. So yeah, like for us to keep it fun for them, and what I recommend for people when I see on forums stuff, am I supposed to be like resting for this long and stuff? And it's like we try to keep the client moving pretty much for the whole 50 minutes, whether it's supersetting strength exercises so that they're non-competing muscle groups, like you can do an upper body and a lower exercise, rest for a little bit and jump into a lower body exercise so that your upper body's getting rest. When you're done with the lower body exercise, by the time you take a short rest and go back to upper body exercise, it is like on paper resting for that 3 minutes that you're supposed to, but you're still moving. Is it not exactly this? It's not exactly the same, but it'll probably still get you 80, 90% of the same results in a lot less time. For like power stuff, you can, instead of just doing it by itself and resting, you can incorporate it with your strength stuff. So do like a squat or a deadlift movement and then go do like a few jumps right after. Get a little bit of that contrast training, but keeping it more fun. And then do your upper body move. Now you're getting like on paper, what's on paper is supposed to be like half an hour of work of training, you're probably condensing that into like 5 to 6 minutes and then move on to the next thing. And it's way more fun for the
Yeah.
client.
Yeah, I think especially somebody new to training, like you can't tell them we're gonna wait 3 minutes, in between every time we do a set. I think, yeah, you're exactly right. You're trading off that. All right, what is optimal versus what is realistic for the person, for sure.
Yeah. And optimal on paper, but in practically though might actually will probably get them better results.
Yeah, I think the realistic approach is probably going to be what they're going to stick with, right? And that's why we do it that way, because nobody's going to stick with it. It takes somebody like yourself who is in love with the training and can spare 2-3 hours to train. It's like, oh yeah, you can do things optimally, and you've trained for long enough that you can get the stimulus you need, to actually need that recovery.
Hmm.
But like you said, very few people are going to have that luxury. When you are, I know a lot of times, you know we're bringing people in, and it may or may not be the first or the second experience with organized training, planned training program. What do you find is what helps people? What steps do you take somebody through, and things do you do to ensure that, or to try and get someone to have that same love for training, to establish that for somebody? And obviously there's personal responsibility to that as well, but what is that, as a coach, as a gym owner, creating the environment, what things do you guys do to make sure that people are enjoying themselves, and people are willing to come back and looking forward to it?
Yeah, to keep people enjoying themselves, like the one we keep the environment super light in general. So we're in person, obviously. So as soon as they walk into the gym, it's a bright white wall, and there's like a giant mural of our dog bursting out of it with bacon flying out. On the opposite wall, there's like our other dog, Bella, the golden retriever that just walked by earlier. And she's just sitting in front of mural holding like weights and like kind of like a Super Saiyan flame around her.
Nice.
So right when you walk in, it's like a different vibe from most gyms because um, most gyms, especially when we were coming up, it was either the 99% of gyms were black and red. For some reason, that's
Mm,
the go-to like gym colors. Every gym's got black or red in it, and it had like the logo coming out with like bricks flying and stuff.
yeah.
So it has like that hard. Most gyms go for that hardcore feel because most trainers like ourselves love training, and like I myself, I love training on like dusty and dark gyms and like loud rock music and stuff going, but that would scare away most of our clients. Um,
Right. Right.
so yeah, just from the environment, we keep it light, tell a lot of bad jokes and stuff, especially me. And I tell them it gets worse as you stay, and they still stay.
Try not to take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing I try to stress, right? Like you want to take what you do seriously, your profession seriously is like always trying to get better and stuff, but don't take yourself too seriously because our profession shouldn't be like people just take stuff way too seriously in our profession. It's like we're really
Mm.
we're just working out. Come on. And then for the clients, I try to find if they've done stuff before. Most of them haven't done anything before. That's what attracts them to us. But a lot of people have come from other gyms or other trainers and stuff, and they fell off, and then getting back into it. So I try to find out why they fell off. The most common things is like losing interest, not getting results, or like they got injured, or um, even like other trainers tend to get complacent. They'll be like, oh, it started to become like the same thing every time. Or like one of a recent one was like, my trainer was just talking too much story and stuff. So sometimes trainers can fall into the trap of, oh, it's getting dull, and like they're trying to make it fun for themselves, and they think like, but then they had a client for years and think like, oh, like they're more comfortable with like talking and stuff, and it's like um yeah, that's like telling my trainer that, yeah, they can be all smiling at you, like talking back and talking story with you back, but in their mind, they're like, I paid for training. No matter how long they've been coming to you,
Right.
they paid for training. As much fun as they might enjoy you and stuff, if they're not getting the training, that the experience that they need or value for their dollar, then when it comes time to cut budget and stuff, and they're like, well, all we do is talk stories, so this guy's gonna go. So it's like, even from a trainer's perspective, you don't want to get complacent and fall into a dog trap, because then the client's gonna fall into a dog trap. So yeah, we change the training up pretty often without it being like totally random, and always get feedback from them how they're improving metrics if they need, whether it's like in body scan for metrics or just like their overall what's going on with their goal. If their goal
Mm-hmm.
is golfing and stuff, how is that going? Always making sure that, yeah, the training is fun, but it's moving them forward. And I keep reminding the client that as long as you keep coming, you're going to keep learning and getting better. You're really never going to run out of things to learn, because we're always learning too. So I highly doubt that like the clients aren't reading about training and just watching fitness videos for fun like we do. It's like you're not going to outpace the stuff that we learn. So as long as you want to keep coming, we're going to keep giving it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Coming from like as general population client, like what do you think are some misunderstandings or misconceptions is the word I'm looking for. What do
Hmm.
you think are some misconceptions of people about what good training looks like or what a good gym environment looks like?
I think one big one is how often they think they need to train, or it's not really worth it.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they're coming like they think or even want to come like 4 or 5 train 4 or 5 days a week to feel like they have to get any significant results, whether it's losing fat or gaining muscle. And I tell people, I mean, you could, but um, how realistic is that you from a schedule perspective to keep on doing it? Because one thing I really stress to the clients is whatever you do to get the results you want, you got to somewhat be able to keep doing that thing to maintain those results. You don't not have to be the exact same thing, and there will
Right.
be like fluctuations in period what you call it, things that times that we face things either more intensity or less, but more or less, yeah, you can't really, you got to do whatever you did to get results, you got to keep doing it, especially if you want fat. And the faster you get the results, the harder it is to maintain, because that probably means you took more extreme measures. So just really asking them what the overall why and end goal is. Like, is it something like, did you want something like soon, like you have a deadline, like getting ready for a wedding in a few months? Then yeah, we got to get a little more extreme. But if you're just trying to get to some kind of weight loss goal, and then of course going through like the why behind it and all of that, but just if you have some kind of weight loss goal and stuff, it's like, I assume you want to maintain that weight for longer, forever, basically. So let's find something that, guarantee you can keep that schedule even when things get busy. And we can always up it during certain periods when you want.
Yeah. That's a place I want to like step in and talk about real quick because I think it's that it is important to understand that one of the things that I've seen is most effective are people who are only really training 2 to 3 times a week in the long run. And I can't remember whether I heard it from Tony Gentlecore. I don't know who maybe coined the term or the style, but the 3 by 52 program of essentially, a lot of people can commit to weekly training, weekly exercise 3 times a week. Um, and that is a sustainable model over the long run. The 52 is referring to 52 weeks in a year, right? And so, but one thing I've noticed is particularly, and what we know from the data is particularly with strength and with muscle mass, like you can maintain quite a bit on just one training session a week, especially if you've not been training, 6 times a week, so to speak. So I think it's important for people to know that too, is like maintenance tends to be a little easier than how you get the initial results. And our bodies do a good job of remembering kind of, oh, this is how I do this, remembering its own strength, holding on to strength. Conditioning is another story. If you're not conditioning your, and doing your cardio appropriately, it does tend to go away a little faster than just raw strength. So
Mhm.
some of those different, endurance obviously is lumped in there, and some of those different training qualities. And I did a video on this not long ago talking about the different training qualities, but those can vary with how well we're able to hold on to them and maintain them in busier seasons. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure, kind of add tack on the back of what you were talking about. I think it's important for people to know those things. So what other misconceptions or do people come in, you think?
Um, but just to go back to what you were saying, like we have people that come as little as like once a week and make have amazing results.
Yeah, absolutely.
One example I use is my grandma came back to training with me this past year.
Awesome.
She was training with me up until about the 2020, the shutdowns happened. And then and then after that, my grandpa wasn't in great health, eventually
Mm-hmm.
passing away, but she was busy taking care of him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And only this past year, after things settled down, finally came back to the gym. But she came in, she had to use like a walker and stuff to get around, or like a
Mm-hmm.
cane and a walker. And then after she only came once a week to train with me, and after 1 month, she walked in without her walker, and I was like, "Hey, where's your walker?" I thought she just forgot it, and then she's like, "Oh no, I threw it away. I don't need it anymore." And that was off just once a week of training for a month.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, obviously that's a little more extreme case, and not going to be the case for a lot of people where you're just going to train 4 times and then not need your walker. But, like that's an example. Like if you have what you call if you only train twice a week, you're still getting 100 workouts in a year. If you're training once a week, you're still getting 50 workouts in a year, and you can get a lot done in 50 workouts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for someone especially for people, if you've never done anything leading up to this point, you would definitely see much better results from 50 workouts than zero workouts spread out over a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a great perspective. And I think that's a good place for us to kind of wrap things up. We're close to the time, and I know you got clients coming in. So I want to make sure you can get to that. Blake, if people are looking to hear more from you, if they're looking to, just get more information, what's the best way to find out more about what you do?
Yeah, I don't really put out a lot of fitness info stuff. Like if you go on my Instagram, which is just my name, Blake Parado, you'll see just a bunch of powerlifting and dogs. But if you enjoy seeing those things, go on there. If you kind of want to see the type of stuff like our clients do, then you can go to our gym Instagram at Parado Power.
Awesome.
Definitely targeted towards just getting people into the gym, like local audience. You can see a lot of people that maybe you think like I'm like too old to go to the gym, or I'm just a beginner, or if you don't think you can do certain things because of your age and stuff, you go on our Instagram and you'll see people probably way older than you, and you would think way less capable, doing some pretty capable things. Our oldest client just turned 98 a couple of days ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Videos of her doing like assisted squats and stuff.
Nice.
We've got like 70-year-olds lifting like 200 pounds and stuff.
I love it. Awesome, man. Well, really appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate you talking about this with me. And for folks, if you're in the Honolulu area, you'll have to check out Parado Power. Give those guys a chance. I'm sure you will not be disappointed. One last shout out for the place that we met, Real Coaches Summit. For any of my coaches who are listening, fellow coaches, can't recommend it enough. It's a phenomenal experience. Aram, who was on this podcast just a few weeks ago, puts a lot of effort and energy into making sure it's a phenomenal time and that there's a lot of good, solid education. And you're going to come away from it, one, encouraged by what you're doing, but two, just with a lot of new tools in your belt. You guys make sure to check that out because I believe as of yesterday, the pre-sale tickets just went on sale. If you have a question about that, feel free to shoot me a message. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this talk, if you enjoyed the podcast, please, if you're on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating, a 5-star review. And if you are on YouTube, please subscribe and like this video. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys later.